Welcome back in, my friends, to the Downbeat podcast. I hope you've been well. I'm going to try and make this intro real fast because I got a feeling we're going to get some people watching it who've got no time for funny business, no time for laughing, no time for any kind of hijinks or capers or any sort of just general jovial activity. That's because my guest on the Downbeat podcast this week is Ihsahn of seminal black metal band Emperor and his own solo stuff, which is amazing, by the way. The man is responsible for shaping black metal. First kind of guy to add synths in, one of the first bands to have corpse paint, and then the first band to get rid of it. Huge stories there. I'm a gigantic Emperor fan, like the biggest. They are my number one black metal band. Just amazing that he wanted to come and have a chat. We talk about his solo stuff. We talk about, obviously, about Emperor, about the early days of Emperor. He's got his finger on the pulse. For a guy who is, responsible for some of the most important 90s black metal, he's up to date with technology, an unbelievable guitarist. I saw him after, and I haven't seen him since 2006. And they absolutely ripped. I couldn't believe it. Amazing guy. Before we get started though, guys, I want to tell you we have a Patreon, patreon.com/downbeat. On it, you get early access to the episodes. You can get ad-free versions of the episodes. You can get early access to merch, early access to anything I do. The Patreon allows me to buy these nice cameras. It allows me to go on a trip that I'm doing at the end of this month in order to get more guests for you because I'm running out of guests. Basically, just allows the podcast to be as good as it can be. The lowest tier is £1. Please consider giving me £1, patreon.com/downbeat. We also have merchandise, and it's just lovely. It's just lovely stuff. You want to look good? You want to look cool? It's got a little streetwear edge on it. I'm wearing some of it right now. It's all super high quality. One location ships from the US, one from the UK. If you're from one of those places that isn't those two places, then just pick one. www.thedownbeat.at, so it spells Downbeat. This episode, as ever, is brought to you by the glorious Wall Dwellers Displate. Displate make metal posters. They go on the wall with a magnet. Have you recently made spaghetti bolognese? Have you recently tripped over? I'm telling you this because I did it. Have you recently tripped over, spilt your spaghetti bolognese all over the floor and then all up a wall? But I cleaned it, but you can't be bothered to clean it. Let me tell you. Displays mount on the wall with a magnet, right? And they come in really, really big sizes. What you could do is use the little wipe that comes with it, protective leaf on top, display over the bolognese. No one's going to know. They're going to come in, they're going to go, oh, I saw Deadpool 3. It was really good because they have Deadpool ones. Little do they know, you're laughing because there's mints and tomatoes and all sorts behind that poster. That went off on a tangent. Listeners of the Downbeat podcast can get an unbelievable 22% off 1 to 2 displays or 33% off 3 or more by going to displate.com/thedownbeat and use the code Downbeat. Check it out. Displate.com, use the code Downbeat. It's Ihsahn of Emperor on the Downbeat podcast. Ihsahn, welcome to the Downbeat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm already getting served here.
You've got a Highland Park Scotch single malt.
It's very nice.
Thoughts? I don't know anything.
I mean, neither do I.
I just like the way they taste.
As we talked about prior to getting on here, when in Rome.
When in Scotland, do as the Scots do. You said you got in at 1 a.m.
No, I left home at 1 a.m.
At 1 a.m. last night?
Yeah.
No, this morning.
Yeah, this morning, yeah.
What sort of flight got you here?
Yeah, it was a 6:30 flight from the airport, but I have quite a drive, from where I live in Telemark. And we like to get there early, get all the gear ready. And then we flew to Amsterdam, Schiphol, had to wait there for everybody who comes in from Denmark and Germany and Poland to join there. And then
is that all the crew?
Or? Yeah. So and then we, took everybody went from Amsterdam to here.
Is the band still based in Norway?
Yeah.
Everyone. But crew is everywhere else.
Yeah, well, some Norwegian crew and some from around, but a very steady group of guys. And at this point, I mean, I think I have to say, just the crew and band and the culture within the people that travel. We travel all over the world, do these relatively few shows.
Yeah.
And we're just a bunch of friends having a great time. And it's never really been better. Like there's jobs you have to do on gig days, but apart from that, it's just like a mix and match of friends that go for dinner.
Is it just the 2 shows?
Yeah.
This trip is
They did just the 2 shows, yeah.
just the 2 shows. First time in Glasgow since 93.
Yeah. No, first time in Scotland since 93. We played Edinburgh. With Cradle of Filth as support.
Wow. Was that your first tour?
Yeah. That was my first show abroad. We played London, Liverpool, Edinburgh, and Birmingham.
How old were you in 93?
17.
17.
They had to sneak me into some of the places because I wasn't old enough to get in.
That's amazing. But you were headlining.
Yeah.
Do you remember what venues?
I have no idea.
What sort of capacity?
No idea.
No idea. Can't remember.
Probably. I think it were we had close to 200 in London.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it was like very small stuff. And I think in Birmingham there was some kind of demonstration, like religious things. They moved the venue, with very short notice.
I mean, Emperor and Cradle of Filth in 1993 is pretty. There's quite a lot of bones to pick with Christians.
I guess, but we went over with a gig bag with a guitar, and a sleeping bag. No idea. We it was Lee Barrett.
Lee Barrett, I know Lee.
Yeah, he organized everything, and literally was a van registered for 2 people, and we put Lee's home couch in the back, and that was the rest of it. So we were probably at most 10 people just in the cargo space of that van.
That's incredible.
And we drove all the way.
That's incredible.
Fun fact about that: if you've seen, we have this. It's not like a bootleg, but like a version of the Wrath of the Tyrant demo.
Yeah.
With this kind of tower spear. It's a red vinyl, red cover with this kind of tower, and that's a picture that Samuel took when we were lost in Edinburgh and we're just in the middle of the night. And I think our driver was pulled in for drinking and driving. And
nice.
We were just there alone and we didn't know if anyone came back.
Wow.
But he took that picture.
And then it was used on a official bootleg?
Yeah, kind of. I can't recall.
One of those.
He deals with all that.
Right. One of those candlelight money pumpers.
I think this was some Norwegian label.
Oh, really?
Doing a limited edition, something way back. It's also on picture disc.
I found some photos from that 1993 UK tour.
You've got photos?
I didn't look too good because at the time we were doing a lot of fire breathing back home with lamp oil.
A lot of fire breathing.
Yeah, the typical stuff, as you do.
Yeah, as you do.
We would go through, me and Samuel, we would go through 3 liters in a night, just rehearsing that stuff. Tastes like shit, but and the idea was that we wanted to go big when we came to Great Britain, and we wanted to buy some lamp oil over here. For some reason, it had a different color, and we found it was some kind of toxic thing, not good for you kind of thing. Probably wasn't too good for you in the first place. And then someone says to me, well, Abbath, from Immortal, he uses Zippo-lighter gas. I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah. And then we got Zippo-lighter gas, and I filled a glass like this and had to go like this for it not to evaporate. Filled my mouth, and you can imagine, it's not a good idea. So I ended up with 2 or 3 degree, burn all across my face. You could see that in picture. I had
let's see, so I can show you now.
Outside of this, So I, it was horrible.
This photo.
Oh, there you go.
Can you see your face in there? Is there a bird?
No, you can see me in the back there. But there are plenty pictures from
corpse paint back then.
Yeah.
And then got rid of it?
Yeah, I think we were one of the first bands, if I'm not mistaken, to go all in on the corpse paint.
Yeah.
And then I guess just because everybody started using it, we were the first to drop it.
Innovator.
Yeah, no, it was just. I guess I've always been. I don't know the English word, like going against the grain
Yeah.
a bit. And I know my band colleagues, they were not too happy about me. Like some later tour, like they printed up Emperor shirts, with this icon E thing,
Yeah.
black ones, and I said I'll have a white one. It's just I'm not sure. I guess the whole collective thing, if this is the way it's done, is just rubbed me the wrong way.
So if you were 17 in 93, Wrath of the Tyrant, what age were you when you started Emperor?
Yeah, I guess I was born late in the year, so it's so I would have turned 18 shortly after.
Yeah.
I think, but so I was 16 in 91 when we formed Emperor. But I started playing in bands with Samos when I was 13. But that was heavy metal.
Yeah.
And then you had different iterations. We had a band called Ihsahn that we did a demo with. Then Embryonic that we did demo, and we even released a single with our band Thou Shalt Suffer, and also a demo. So Emperor was kind of started as a kind of a side project. It was more not by today's standards, but like influenced by more technical death metal stuff. And then Emperor was kind of a side project to more Battery Celtic Frost style things. So we were already doing things where I did keyboard layers and stuff, more epic stuff. And then the Wrath of the Tyrant demo is more very back to basic.
Yeah.
And so and just eventually, when we decided that was the kind of the band that we felt most compelled by, I guess we brought everything into that.
How did you write such complex orchestral like synth parts they're comparatively complex?
Comparatively to what I just released, it's not.
I mean, no, yeah, we're going to get onto that. But like in my head, like 93, like there's no computers that you couldn't load up Logic and just like put in some synth. So like, how were you writing? So like, let's say Nightside, when it got really synthy, how did the song get written?
No, it was, we wrote, in the rehearsal space at that point. But then I would just, I've always heard layers in my head. And it's just a matter of, but it's very, very simple. It was like, just string patches and choir patches and playing it in live to tape.
So you would write in the rehearsal room just guitar, bass, drums.
Yes, and then I would make out, the parts, and we did some trials of that just with a simple keyboard at rehearsal space, and did that for the recording. But I soon realized that it was too limited. So by the time we did Anthems, I actually got my own first computer with Cubase, because I started using one. My first encounter with Cubase, I'm not sure it was called Cubase at the time, but it was on this Atari S1000 machine, and it just had these orange dots on this old school small monitor. And I remember I thought that if I had that, I could do anything. And literally, since we did Eclipse, I got my own computer. I learned to do the programming, and had this JV 1080 Roland module, which is kind of a classic by now, with the orchestral card. And have you heard this kind of mock-up orchestral version of Inu Asatana called Opus Asatana? We do a part of that. And that was literally how I learned to use Cubase.
Really?
That's my first encounter, programming on Cubase. I learned it that way. And I literally, for Anthems, I did all the kind of keyboard orchestral things in Cubase, but just like for an arrangement part. But of course, we had no idea how to play to click or sync things up. So literally, when we got to Grieghall to record Anthems, I had everything pre-prepared. So I brought my computer, and then I would listen to what I programmed, and then I had to record everything live, to tape.
Yeah.
So it was just like a reference.
So you recorded? Did you still record all like guitar, bass, drums first?
Yeah.
And then you went back, relearned what you what you'd done before and played it over the top.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's like a weird reverse engineering.
Yes, but also learning that, of course, when I wrote all the orchestral parts, for that album, it was only me, playing without an amp at home in front of the computer. And like, yeah, this fits, and it sounds great. But of course, you hear 10% of what I put in there because there's only so much room.
Until now. Now you have all the room. Okay, while we're on Anthems, while we're talking about the recording of Anthems, is it a real owl? Did you have to go, that owl going, woo-hoo, in the intro? How in 1996, was it 96 Anthems? Did you go out with a microphone and get the owl?
This was because Pytten, legendary producer at Grieghallen, who did all those early black metal records.
Yeah.
His background was, of course, as a musician and as a producer, but he was a TV host for Norway's one youth program at the NRK, the national state channel. So he had access to their whole sound library on that. He had an assistant, I remember, who got some kind of early iteration of Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And so this was kind of added all after the fact. And I remember we were at this guy's apartment and he had the tapes with the masters and he managed to add, these samples.
Amazing. So it was active choice to put an owl in there. I just want to know for myself. I've got no clever question. That's one of my favorite intros of all time. And then later on in the song, my favorite tempo change of all time.
Okay.
The tempo change to the blast, is one of my favorite moments in black metal ever. So
thank you.
Hats off to you. Can't wait to see it tomorrow. Hopefully. It's on the set list, I assume. Of course it is. While we're on the synth thing, did you ever get any blowback from the black metal community for having synths? Because your music was quite a lot, this is not supposed to be insulting because I love black metal, but quite a lot more clever than the other bands at the time. Was there anyone that didn't like you because of the synth element?
I'm not sure.
They didn't tell you.
No. But the thing is, of course, we knew everybody, but it's really always Samus who had the connection, he had the network.
Yeah.
So I kind of most of the people in the scene I knew, through him. Some people might find this really surprising, but when you start playing this kind of music when you're 16, it's not necessarily because you're too worried about what people think of you.
Yeah.
Quite the contrary.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
What inspired you with the orchestral stuff?
I think it's a mix of two things. And first of all, Iron Maiden, Seven Son, keyboards. I know that was controversial for older Iron Maiden fans, but for me, that was just what made it even more epic. That extra layer. And then at the same time, we were watching, of course, a lot of, old school horror movies, Omen being one of my favorites.
Great.
Still,
Great
Jerry
score.
Goldsmith. Oh,
amazing.
And
Evil.
And of course, that soundtrack was a very common intro for many a black metal show back in the day.
Right, Ave Satani.
Oh yeah, for sure. So that was kind of my trajectory, the gateway into orchestral music. But for me, that it just it added that element of epicness, and that was kind of what we were going for.
I mean, it
and as I
definitely
said, even before Emperor, Process Tyrant had no keyboards, but prior to that, we had Thou Shalt Suffer with a lot of keyboard elements. And some people find it. I've been talking about this lately, in press with the kind of mix that I've been doing now. Like, how strange, to mix orchestral music and metal music. But to me, the two always kind of went together, beyond the actual instrumentation. It's kind of trying to achieve the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of instrumentation, really. And I think compositionally and with the ebb and flow of things, I always felt that a lot of extreme metal was very one-dimensional in the sense that it's always on 11.
Yeah.
And there's no build. So at least it's just from a sonic perspective. But then at least when you kind of can add these other elements to it, at least you can simulate a sense of ebb and flow.
I can fully relate. My journey into getting into black metal was Metallica S&M. Remember when they did the thing with
Yeah.
San Francisco Symphony Orchestra? I was like, when that came out, I guess I don't know when that came out, like 99 maybe? I think I was 12. And I'd kind of liked Metallica, and then that came out, and I was like, oh my God, like metal with strings is the coolest thing I've ever heard. I wonder if any other bands do it. And I like 99, so I think I was on Ask Jeeves, and I was like, bands with orchestral Emperor. And then I went from liking new metal and Metallica, and then I found Emperor, and I just went, oh, black metal.
Okay.
And that was my introduction, because I agree.
Listening, of course, this is also not typical, but one of my favorite Black Sabbath albums is Born Again.
Yeah.
You know, with Ian Gillan. And in particular, like Disturbing the Priest. And if you listen to the midsection, if you listen to what they're doing, or you know, Tony Iommi is doing with the guitar, you know, creating these textures and like kind of atonal, you know, scratches and like small, it's kind of, you know, doing this very similar thing to what Jerry Goldsmith probably attempted with all the dissonance and this kind of, you know, this stacking seventh chords, you know, in the Alien soundtrack, you know, the Alien chord.
Yeah.
You know, I was so fascinated by that, you know, with people who did this experience with quartal harmony and quintal harmony. And apparently that was Jerry Goldsmith's inspiration to do the Alien chord, which is like stacking sevenths.
So what is the Alien chord? What is the Alien chord?
Stacking sevenths. You know, all you know, from the bottom and just going 7 7 7th.
Wow.
And if you do that, like, sounds like Alien.
Amazing. That's so cool.
So it's just like a theoretical approach. Yeah,
Nice.
I think. From what I understood, I'm not too good with that stuff. But
You definitely are. At this point in the podcast, you are probably thinking, how can I start a band and be as cool as the guest in this podcast? Well, I mean, I play the guitar, but usually I just play it without an amplifier because I can't afford an amplifier and all sorts of stuff like that. Well, stop, because the lovely people at Neural DSP are giving you 35% off plugins. You can make yourself sound like Royal Blood. You can make yourself sound like Gojira with Archetype Gojira. There's I think I'm saying it right, Rabia, I don't know. You know the guy with the afro? Well, he's got a absolutely rocking pack. If you play the bass, right, I'm not going to slag you off, right? You know what? I was thinking about it. Realistically, if I didn't play drums, I'd probably play the bass. Well, they've got the bass. They've got a dark glass pack. They've got Nolly's own pack. We love Nolly on the podcast. NeuralDSP.com. Use the code TheDownbeat and you can get 35% off any plugin. You can sound great. You just plug in, you go. Plug in, press a couple of buttons, away you go. NeuralDSP.com. The code is TheDownbeat. The black metal scene had a lot of enemies with Christianity. You've been known to at least in your younger days, to have pretty anti-Christian views or pro-pagan views. As you've got older, has that changed? Am I wrong about that?
Hopefully it's changed in the sense that we all have those friends who are the same now as when they were 16, and it's not always that charming.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully there's a journey in between. But I guess, you know, it's the rebellious side, and I think with rock and metal, you know, this the devil and that kind of imagery, the adversary, you know, the opposition, and really asking the question why. You know, it's like, here are the moral rules, and then you, as a rebellious young man, you know, you ask why, and you want to figure it out yourself. So again, as I guess as horror movie soundtracks was a gateway to orchestral music, I guess, you know, teenage relations with you know, Anton LaVey and the likes, which more like chewing gum style philosophy, but still it was a gateway to reading Nietzsche and the more, you know, thoughtful stuff. We all have to start. We don't start with the answers, you know. We just try try to figure out more questions along the way.
I mean, I was the same. Like, I used to be staunchly atheist. Again, rebellious, super, read all of the Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, all that stuff. And I was like, when I was a kid, I was like, insufferable with it. Like, I was so, like, if you believe in this, you're an idiot. Real bad. And then now, as I've got older, I'm like, I don't really know. Like, I think I'd put myself as agnostic now. Do you have anything spiritual that you would consider your belief? Or are you...
I think spirituality in relation to music and art is something that I relate to. You know, like a metaphysical thing is probably a bit blunt to put it like that. But it's like, I feel through art and music, we kind of communicate the stuff that we don't have words for. And I think it taps into the same mechanisms in us as religion, in a sense. You know, the unanswerable things, but still the big existential stuff. And this is, you know, if you look at the antique, you know, the Greeks and everything, the philosophers, it's the same questions today. We have evolved in so many other ways, but like the pure, you know, anxiety of death and questions and the existential stuff of, and all kinds of stories of love and hate and ambition and disappointment and loss. It's universal in a sense, and that's so as a belief system. I guess I'm different in the sense that I tend to go along better with people who have some kind of moral code, even if that's, you know, if you're a Christian or anything else. I've, you know, acquaintances that are Christian that I find very highly intelligent and really nice people, and the people that I tend to be more cautious with are people who don't really have anything to go by, you know. And then it's like they don't care. So wasn't that from the series The Wire? Did you see The Wire?
Yeah, I saw The Wire.
Every man needs to have a code. Yeah, you know, I like that.
Yeah. Okay, my religious belief is The Wire. That's
yeah. I'm not saying that. No, but so for me, it's just like always more questions. And I guess my biggest fascination, like philosophically, has always been Nietzsche. You know, and he would question. And again, it's back to the why. You know, and of course he proclaimed God is dead famously, and then, but you know, it was more from an analytical point of view, the way I understand it, that, you know, okay, we're going into this kind of secular way of life, and then and a way of perceiving the world, and what do we fill in that gap, in that vacuum of people not having that kind of superimposed moral, you know, force. What we need to be careful what we fill that space with. That's how I understand him, and he would continually question not only everybody else, but he would also question himself. And a lot of people say like, oh yeah, he turned mad in the end, and he's so contradictory even in his books. And that all the more reason to enjoy reading him, because it's, you know, he never settled for one set of, you know, he didn't stop the question.
Yeah, you can see the conflict with his own opinions.
Yeah. So he would question even himself and his own views. I love that. Have you seen the T-shirt like with a Nike logo, but it says Nietzsche, just doubt it?
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I should get one of those.
Yeah. Wear it on stage. The only reason I asked about the spirituality thing, because you I think you mentioned you were doing yoga before you came here.
No. Please don't imagine me doing yoga. That would be a horrible thing. No, just because I haven't had that much sleep. Okay. And it's the yoga nidra thing, which is like a deep rest thing, a guided thing, so that you kind of can catch up when we do what we do with these kind of flights and everything. It's from Andrew Huberman. One of my favorite podcasts.
Huge podcaster. Oh, it's the, what's it called? It has a name to it. Simon, edit out.
NSDR.
NSDR, yeah.
Similar thing.
Non-sleep, deep, whatever it is. So what do you do to practice that? I love Huberman. I'm a big Huberman
I just
fan.
you do a search on YouTube and you find someone who softly guides you through this, and you get more rested.
Oh, so it wasn't yoga. I was wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't know the actual term for it. I knew it as it's
NSDR it's the
science.
the science version, I think, but yoga nidra is basically from what I understand, a similar thing, and but it's just with an older tradition.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if you Google or YouTube search NSDR, you will get a similar.
Do you do anything like that before you play a show? Or have you got like a pre-show warm-up or ritual?
No, not really. Just like regular warm-up stuff. But, I try to keep some regularities and training and breathing exercises. I'm big into Wim Hof.
I love Wim Hof
Yeah.
so much.
Escalated to 2 ice plunges a week.
Ah, have you got one? I mean, I guess.
No, like we have a frozen lake.
Yeah, amazing. What, outside your house?
No, it's close by.
And what time do you go eat? First thing in the morning, or?
No, it's usually some midday ish, maybe in the afternoon sometimes.
I wish I had access to. I can't do. I do.
It's great.
I've done them when I've been on tour and there's been a gym that has an ice plunge. I'll do it, but I do the breathing every day.
Yeah,
and I'll do a cold shower, but it's not the same.
yeah,
as
cold
the plunge.
showers every day, but also like it's just something different. Like get 5-6 minutes in like almost 0 degrees, and just the way to feel how your body responds and warms up again.
Yeah,
and
the dopamine release afterwards.
And you
like
trigger
drugs.
something. That's what I like about Wim Hof. He's crazy, of course.
He's crazy,
but in the most lovable way, I think.
Yeah,
and it's just with all the kind of craziness that goes on. Maybe I'm just getting old and kind of old school, but I find it very satisfying doing stuff that is so core, like the breathing, holding your breath for 3-4 minutes, and going into the ice. You don't care about the Instagram and all bullshit anymore. It's usually like core things and deeper, metaphysical stuff. That's what I want to feel, important stuff and artistic stuff, and try to minimize the boring middle stuff.
Have you ever had it? I get it very rarely on the breath holds. If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, Wim Hof is a guy who basically he owns a lot of Guinness World Records for doing insane stuff like marathons in the desert and holding his breath. And the most interesting one was he scientifically helps, I think it was 17 people to not get E. coli. E. coli has a 99% success rate of infecting you. There's a breath work that he managed to, all of these people didn't get E. coli, so it works on your immune system. And the breath work, whenever I do it, there's sometimes, the hold at the end. There's been a couple of times that I have like tripped out like I'm on drugs. Like it's been insane. The weirdest thing, I remember it really vividly. I was doing it in the bath. You're not really supposed to do it in the bath, but it was kind of cool. And I like had this vision of me at the Empire State Building. And it was like just the surrealist, like, have you ever been knocked out before and you have like a crazy dream? I don't know if you've ever been knocked out, but
no, I don't think so.
So
and I never did any drugs, so I don't know how to relate.
You take a lot of breaths, you hold your breath, and then you do a big hold in. Now, one of these times that I did a hold in, I had this vision of being at the Empire State Building, and it was the craziest thing. It was so vivid, and I hadn't been to the Empire State Building before. And then like 2 years later, I went to the Empire State Building, and then I had deja vu from being in my bath doing my Wim Hof. And it was the most surreal thing. And since then, I've just thought like, is there some sort of weird time transient thing happening?
You got all spiritual about it.
Honestly.
I can understand that.
Ever since then, I was just like, I was there, but in my bath, and 2 years later I went, I got the deja vu, but this time I knew where the deja vu was from. It was the strangest thing. I got no questions for you based on this.
No, but I find it fascinating because it's hard to I'm not trying to win anyone over to because the science and it's so good for you, and I feel it is.
It definitely is.
But the cold showers every morning and the ice plunges and the breath holding and all that, the breath work, it feels good to do something that, let's face it, is pretty difficult.
Challenging, yeah.
Yeah, and especially when you start the day like that, it's like when you're on some kind of healthy food period or something. When you start out good, you don't want to break it.
Yeah.
And when you start your day doing something that is difficult and you do it anyway, you kind of keep that mentality throughout the day.
Yeah, it's
and
amazing.
I think that is cool.
I fully agree. I that's how I sell it to people. Not that I'm trying to sell it to people, but like it sucks for like a second until you get out of the shower and then you're fine and you actually feel quite like energized. But it gives you this like resilience throughout the day.
Yeah.
A small challenge that would probably annoy you, you just did a big annoying challenge in the shower in the morning. I just feel more chill with it.
Yeah, and really, I've stopped reading much. I read far less news. I try to a greater extent. I'm not perfect. I have many things to work on, but just trying to weed out all these things. Not that it's not important, but it's really inviting a lot of negative stress into your life that you can't do anything about.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of out there to be stressed out about.
There is an awful lot. Let's talk about your new album.
This is very nice, by the way. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Thanks for coming on Zero Sleep, on just NDSR Sleep. Is there a reason 8 solo albums in that this one is self-titled?
The reason is that given the complexity of there being 2 versions, 2 parallel storylines, and all this kind of my first chronological conceptual album, it was just so hard to find a title that would capture what it was about. And at the same time, prior to that, it's been 6 years since my last full length, but in between I've been doing these EPs, which were kind of like outer edges. One of them were like super old school black metal with a horn section, and the other one was more indie pop rock-ish. So I kind of went in both directions. Coming back now, I guess I approached this as instead of adding an unknown element, I wanted to take core elements like black metal band, straight up symphony orchestra. There's no hybrid stuff.
Yeah.
And subjectively try to elevate that to a level that I've never done before. And then the idea of making 2 albums as one, where the orchestrations would support the metal production, but also arrange them in such a way that they would work independently as their own thing. Conceptually, and just the storyline is very archetypical. Can you say that?
Yeah.
The musical ingredients with traditional symphony orchestra setup, a traditional band setup. It was very down the middle of what I've been doing since my very beginning.
Yeah.
So I thought this might be a good opportunity as any.
And it's really easy to call it a self-titled album.
Yeah, because it wasn't like too left field of anything. So it's really down the middle. So I thought, either it's the first album of some artist or somewhere down the line I just found.
To me,
this is a good opportunity.
To me, it sounded like the album I think Emperor would have made after Prometheus. Like, obviously just talking, if it came out under Emperor, I would have went, oh, this is where they're going. Do you know what I mean? Prometheus, where you started digging into the progressive side of things.
Yeah, but then it's a matter of course I did Prometheus. Probably I play more of the instruments on that than I did on my solo albums.
Oh, really?
So that was kind of the last time I ended up doing more and more of the Emperor's music, and by Prometheus I did everything. That's kind of, and it was very obvious that Samuelson Trim wanted to do other stuff. I wanted to do other stuff. So that was it was a natural turning point for us to go our separate ways, and I followed just my trajectory creatively, and they followed theirs.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And of course, I will always, my music will always be compared to Emperors. This is two different.
Have I offended you with that?
Not at all.
I hope I haven't. I just mean
people make different associations, and of course, I get that all the time. Will there be another Emperor album? And in the beginning of my solo career, I think I was more like, I'm kind of doing the best I can.
Yeah.
I never. But now I tend to look at it as there's a compliment in there. People had a great relationship to music that we did with Emperor that I was part of, in a similar way that I have a strong relationship to music that I grew up on in my teens and everything. And people want to feel like that again. But at the same time, I don't think that we could get together and make something that would satisfy that urge.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If we were to continue as we do, being totally uncompromising and
Jazz album.
yeah. And really, and with no disrespect to my colleagues in Emperor, we're in a great place now. Just the culture within the whole Emperor thing and doing what we do is amazing. But creatively, I feel I'm in the best place I should be. I truly think it would be very strange for me to go back to and do that as a joint thing, because I don't think when people say that they want another Emperor album, I don't think they mean continuing from Prometheus, where I just do even more.
Yeah, see, that's why I brought it up, because I love Prometheus, and I would have, I love your solo stuff. I would have welcomed either. But this particular album, I don't know if it's the mix, the Jens Bogram mix as well, is like pretty metal.
He really nailed it.
Oh, the mix is incredible.
It's always if to be a bit pragmatic about it, is you mentioned Metallica, S&M, and I've done just from my own perspective doing it the wrong way so many times when you try to squeeze a big metal production and a big orchestra into the same sonic space, and as a consequence, both has to be smaller to fit, and also I'm not saying particularly for the Metallica thing, but in some cases where they do this, it's been very traditional to do this, like especially big bands, and they're doing it with a full symphony orchestra, and it's really old songs, and they kind of superimpose an orchestra on top, and it's not meant to go together. So that was something that I was particularly conscious about when I did this new one. That where the metal side of things is very dense and extreme, the orchestral part needs to back off, and where the metal arrangement opens up and is more kind of open, the orchestrations can bloom through, and hopefully that would also make the orchestral elements alone on that release also follow a different dynamic
in their own
ebb and
right.
flow in their own. So it's not like they're not moving in the same direction all the time. I've used this example just because it's so obvious in the first single, Pilgrimage to Oblivion, the hardest track on the album, and it starts off with just a scaled run and just blast beats and screaming and very extreme, and the orchestral version starts with whispery, quiet, tremolo cellos. Same riff, even in the same range, but it's just like the same music but presented in an entirely different emotional range.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Which was kind of part of the fascination for me to try and express the same music at the same time, but with two different emotional impacts.
How did you go about writing that? Was it the orchestral arrangement first, or the guitars first, or do you have a particular
both at the same time?
What do you mean you can't? You've only got one brain, my friend. How?
No, but I sketched it out.
Let's do this. Tell me exactly how you write a song, from inception to it being recorded?
It may vary, and I always try to switch up my work methods, because I've been playing guitar for so many years that muscle memory will make you play the same things.
Yeah.
So this time, since that was kind of one of the core elements. So before I write an album, I always wait to get, this may sound very metaphysical again, I get an impulse. Like I feel how the album should sound and feel like an abstract punch in the gut.
Wow.
And then I had this one book where I have all my solo albums scattered, literally where I do write-ups of image associations, what kind of sounds, what kind of textures, and gradually, in modern days, they would probably call it a mood board.
Yeah,
but
Pinterest.
yeah, but literally just gathering all the things that I feel fits in with that initial impulse, and then you build layer on layer. And since I knew that I wanted to do this as a dual album with the orchestral parts being individual, the only way I could do it was to write both as a sketch. It's like a pencil or charcoal sketch. And in the press release, some people got confused by that, because it all started with a piano, and I don't play piano that well. but I would have like 5-6 tracks with a piano sound in my sequencer, and just write all the bass parts, all the chordal parts, melody parts, counter melodies and embellishments, all this kind of stuff, and just make the composition work. And then I would, arrange it, give the bass guitar the bass part, and sometimes I would give it to the bassoon, sometimes to the trombones, like building. But I had to make the kind of the charcoal sketch work as a whole thing first, and then I just went very systematically arranging it for the different ensembles.
This is all just in your DAW on your computer. And then how do you get an actual orchestral person to play those parts? Do they do it by ear, or do you have to notate it for them?
No. I used the orchestral parts are predominantly Spitfire Audio BBC Orchestra Pro.
No way.
So,
I assume they were real.
Oh, thank you.
That's so good. I fully assume they were real.
Oh, no, thank you. No, Spitfire did, an amazing job. They do amazing stuff.
Mind blown.
And but I had I had some of the percussion I recorded with my drummers in the studio to have there's always a real element, and I had the amazing violin player called Chris Baum from the US, who did layered up I think it was 10 and 8 versions of all violin ones and all violin twos. So, but that's kind of blended in with everything. But the rest is just me, orchestrating and. But it's no, as I said, there are no patches mock up things. I wrote it, piece by piece.
Yeah.
So there's, I had the piccolo lines, heard the piccolo lines, so it's written as if I was writing it for a real orchestra.
Amazing.
That was kind of, I always like to add these kind of educational elements to my album projects. So, add on to the good old palette.
It must have been the violin that just made me assume it was real, because the violin, when it's on its own, it's obviously a real violin. So I just assumed everything was real.
Yeah, but that's the great thing. I mean, in an ideal scenario, I guess it would be great to do, and hopefully down the line I get to do this with a full orchestra as well. Because I talked to Devin about this as well, who's been using real orchestras, and Joel Dolly, who mixed the orchestral version, who specializes in these kind of hybrid recordings for TV and games and everything. He said that it's a very romantic idea to use a real orchestra if you don't get the real, the right one. So I think even Hans Zimmer said somewhere that for the short articulations, actually they would still use the samples from his because it's so hard to get an orchestra to kind of hit the transients, especially like, and Devin said the same thing when he works with some orchestras, like to get them to play in tune in that kind of every tune setup, and to get the transients to line up with like that kind of kick drum, and
especially
that kind
how it's mic'd often, like an orchestra is mic'd.
it's more blurry,
Yeah.
and that's part of the so it's to get them into these hybrids, and you need an orchestra that are used to doing that, to play to a click and like really hit.
Yeah.
I'm not Metallica, and I think I'm very
You
pragmatic.
sell yourself short.
No, but I'm thinking financially. I wish, but no. So I'm very pragmatic like that. It's like it's better for me to have Spitfire audio that would have a higher quality than the orchestra that I would have access to.
You'd spend more money for probably a worse result.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in a similar way that the ever-going debate of, say, guitar amplifiers. Is it a real amp or is it a
Kemper,
plug-in?
yeah.
Whatever sounds best. It's much better to have, if you have a bad mic and a bad room and a crappy cab, you're probably better off with a plug-in.
Unless it's black metal.
Yeah, but then...
Unless it's 1993.
Yeah. We recorded those albums with the two first ones with transistor PVs.
Wow. Just mic'd up.
Yeah.
How were the drums mic'd? Can you remember?
No idea.
Probably just one microphone.
No.
Emperor had good drums.
Yeah. No. The Pitten did, the real deal.
Yeah.
I talked to him. We played in Grieghallen, on live station. He was doing like these guided tours for the audience and everything, and we talked about this. I didn't remember this, but because we had so many things going on with all the keyboards and everything, of course we had the analog tape machine, but that wasn't enough. So he said that he had a sequencer running for some of the keyboard parts, and some of them were tracked directly to tape, but he also had this ADAT machine that he needed to sync with the tape. So literally, he said it took 30 seconds to play, to press play and to get everything to get in sync.
Wow.
Because he really had to bring out all the guns to get things...
I never thought about that. 8-track for all those.
No. I think it was a 16-track plus the ADAT plus the...
Yeah, unbelievable. You touched on the concept of the album.
Mm-hmm.
Could you go into any detail about that?
It's a very traditional... I mean, so some of my thoughts of this was trying to... With the orchestral part, I was trying to kind of make an imaginary soundtrack. And then, to play around with leitmotifs, and reoccurring themes, these kind of things that I love about, soundtracks. And also to learn and try to apply that. So literally I wrote, as a starting point, a synopsis, just for a novel kind of story, but very traditionally based on this Joseph Campbell, hero's journey kind of thing. References to Dionysus and Apollo and the juxtaposition of these extremes. And I've been reluctant not to be mysterious about it, but
you are being mysterious.
no, but in the same way, I've had some albums destroyed for me, in the sense that the artist has kind of superimposed their original meaning, which was totally different from what I experienced. And I'd rather have my experience and my interpretation than what they meant.
Yeah.
And in a similar way, I made my story. Even if, friends and colleagues that I played the album to when it was mastered and had no information about the album, and so many of them went in blind and came back, most of them saying like, I feel like I'm watching a movie, which I thought was a great compliment, because then it's not important what my story is, but I think that people get a sense of the story. And of course, with lyrics, there are some references definitely, so that but that this sense of a story and a journey is more important than my interpretation of things.
I think I watched an interview with Rick Rubin recently where someone asked him.
Love Rick Rubin.
Oh, legend.
Love the book. Have you read the book?
No, I haven't read it yet.
I've read it twice.
Twice I need to do it. Then.
It's an easy read. He uses different words with like one of those situations where you read something like, yes, this is what I've been thinking. He just managed to put it into some nice wording.
I think about that a lot when I'm listening to him. Like he's so articulate with not only music and art, but also how it relates to like the self and everything. But on your point there, I think someone asked him in an interview, is this song about this? And he said, what do you think it's about? And the person said what they think it's about. And he said, then that's what it's about.
Yeah.
And that sort of alludes to what you said. And I think for me, that's why I listen to a lot of soundtrack stuff, like yourself, a lot of Hans Zimmer, I love Hans Zimmer. But me also too. I listen to a lot of instrumental music because the minute I know what a song is about, like you're saying, if it's not about my personal inner conflict or experiences, I can't relate to it. It ruins the music for me.
Yeah, I get that, and sometimes, especially I remember back in the day with some death metal demos that I really enjoyed, and then I accidentally read the lyrics, and they were very
accidentally.
Yeah, but they were very bad, and also the rhythmical phrasing was off. You know, I'm very particular about the. You know,
who was it?
No, I can't remember, some demo, but it made me even more aware of being very articulate. I've been talking to when we met, like with David Vincent, for example, my inspiration from him to being so on point and so articulate, and that the wording, the message gets across. It's just like not like voices, and early Bathory, Corton as well. Yeah. I think it's important to be articulate like that, get a message across, but then interpretation is an entirely different thing. And I'm sure you've noticed this as well. If you read a book, you read a book when we're young, and then you kind of pick it up again after a while, and you experience it in a different way.
It means something completely different, yeah.
And that's the same with music. And also, since we talked about this, is something that I've been pondering. Even though this new album is self-titled, it's the first time I've kind of written from a different perspective than my own. Tried to, anyways. Yeah. Inevitably, you're bound to bring some of your own personality in there, of course, and experiences. I think subconsciously and consciously, I want to create more distance between my person and the stuff that I create. Not to make it less personal, it's still as important to me, but with all the mundaneness of the industry right now, because I remember, seeing Iron Maiden October 5th in 88, and like I'm breathing the same air as Bruce Dickinson and Steve Harris, and it was magic. That was part of the kind of this Dionysus ritual. That the show, you're not there to be your mundane self. You're like there for the ecstasy. And these days where you kind of get under the skin of your favorite artist and you know what they had for dinner before they come on stage, and it's like it takes away, it's a distraction. And also all these kind of art forms where this picture is so important because the history of the artist who had this sad story, and you need a user manual to understand why a piece of art is good. Look at the Statue of David. You don't need a user manual to see that is a great, amazing, divine piece of art. I prefer stuff that I can, additional information might be valuable down the line if you go deeper. In the same way that I felt I went deeper and deeper when listening to Iron Maiden. I didn't know anything about them. But you read all the liner notes of the vinyl that you invested in, that you saved up to. And so I know that it's very old school, and probably because I'm closing in on 50. But that distance, I think, is important. And I think subconsciously, people are also drawn to this. When you see the success of bands like Ghost, Rammstein, Sleep Token, even if they now know who's behind the mask, people go along with it because they're not there for, average Joe behind the mask. They're there for the ritual, for the experience, the ecstatic, something otherworldly.
It does make me think I need to start a band with masks. Because not only do you get that privacy, you...
What do you think Emperor would have been if they knew that we were just spotty teenagers? You know?
Yeah, but you were doing something different in the scene that was already pretty big. I think you could have come out with no corpse paint and you would have been fine.
I kind of shoot myself in the foot here because, of course, now I've been... what people have been provoked about is me not having a metal look. You know, going on stage with glasses and slick hair.
Who's been provoked about that? People
No,
aren't
no, but
happy.
I've seen like reviews and you know, Ihsahn metal with glasses and saxophone.
Is that what someone said?
Yeah, Metal Hammer Germany. That was just an example. I don't get provoked by that.
Yeah.
But
German people are an exception, though.
no, but I do enjoy the bands, you know, and that whole thing with the myth.
Yeah.
But with my own stuff, I kind of do the opposite. In a sense, it's been a bit of satisfying with all the sensationalism that's been attached to the Norwegian black metal scene and with Emperor and everything that, you know, after all these years, we can go on stage just in jeans and a t-shirt and the music is enough, you know. When you kind of strip away all the bells and whistles and all that, you know, the music in itself, it's not dependent on that, which has been kind of satisfying.
Yeah.
I think that the music also is valuable for what it is and not just attached to all the bells and whistles. If that makes sense.
I do love a bells and whistle band though myself.
Yeah,
I love a mask band, but I feel like it's, for me, I'm conflicted with Sleep Token and Ghost. I love Ghost because
Me too.
the songs are really catchy. And I actually, when I was working at Candlelight, the first record was on Rise Above. It was distributed in the same Plastic Head. I had just listened to it and I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is just like old school, little bit of like ABBA, Judas Priest, like weird mix of things. This is great. And then about a year later, someone was like, oh, what? Doesn't it annoy you what they look like? And I was like, what do they look like? And I Googled it and was like, oh my God, like this is even cooler to me now.
Yeah.
But like, I'm
And
kind
conceptually, it's ingenious, I think, with Papa kind of changing roles, that whole mythology they built around it.
Did you see the one where the first time he changed, it was a magic trick. I can't remember what it was. It was when they introduced Papa 2 or whatever.
Okay, no, I didn't see that.
Plays the whole show. And then for the encore, no, it's even before the encore, they haven't even left the stage, plays the whole show and then announces he's passing the torch like a pope. This other guy comes out and he's exactly the same. The other guy leaves and they do the last song with the new guy, but one of them obviously wasn't him. One of them obviously wasn't him. And it was just the most amazing, like, magic trick. I was like, no one's done anything like that for a long time. Like,
But I saw that. So I saw a clip of that. I saw somewhere in South America when the next one, not the but where they announced the next Papa. Or no, the Cardinal Copia, and he was made Papa on stage. Which is, but for the most part, I don't really enjoy humor in music.
Yeah.
It's
they've got it right though.
but they got the right balance. So because I oftentimes find humorous bands, they use the humor as an excuse to not do it right.
Yeah.
But I think if you use humor in your music, it has to be even better.
Yeah. It needs to be a side product of already good music.
Yeah.
My thing with bands looking scary, weirdly Ghost is the exception because it doesn't look really scary. My thing with Sleep Token is like I'm super happy for their success, and it's like the music, they obviously make good music. They look spookier than they act, and that kind of doesn't gel for me when I see it live. like they look when they come out, and I was like, oh, these masks are really cool. Like the music's cool. And then I saw them live, and they were like dancing around, and I was like, oh, I was kind of hoping they do it. Like, you ever seen Botushka?
No.
There's a Polish band. They
heard of them.
sing in, I think it's Orthodox Russian, and they have the full. I can't remember the name of the monks. Those monks that have never like seen. They're not allowed to see women, and that's like the robe and everything. And they just stand on stage. The drummer's behind one of those church things, blasting away. They just stand, and the singer stands like that, and the whole show, and it just looks evil. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
I do enjoy how Ghost does it, because me and my son has been going to see several of the shows, and just how they, I think it's like half an hour before the show, they just start playing these choral chanting music, and the whole line check is also ritualistic, and the crew coming bowing and all in. I think it's quite ingenious how they does that. And as for Sleep Token, I think it's when I heard, because Darren sent me the album before it came out, the first one that I got to listen to it. That makes sense, because I was waiting for when will someone take the dark stuff of neural kind of metal down tune guitars and all that, and mix that with the dark side of R&B and hip hop. It was kind of bound to happen. Yeah, and then intertwined with this kind of masked mythological thing, it just made sense. I do applaud their success, and I think they do what they do very well. Obviously, it's not music that is intended for old men closing in on 50, but I can see why they are very successful, and also it in this day and age where the whole industry is so saturated, it makes sense also because it's pointing in one direction. Yeah, people know, and they will remember, And I of course I carry a torch for someone like Leprous as well, who are a unique band. They're so good.
Is the singer your brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Look at me, big brain guy.
Me and my wife, we bought him his first keyboard.
Really?
And forced him to be in a band.
No way.
That's what became Leprous.
That's amazing. And you're responsible?
No, I'm not responsible, but we were involved. We recorded, their first demos, and we helped them out. Yeah, and they were my backing band when I first started playing live with my solo stuff.
The whole band?
Yeah.
That's real cool.
So it was a win-win, because when I went to play Japan, and then they played the support spot, and then I came on and we did my set. So it's like
easy.
Yeah. But I mean, and Einar played in Emperor, on the first reunion stuff, and we've been doing things together. And it's just to see their success now as well. But I mean, considering how good they are, it surprises me that they're not even bigger. But it's probably because they don't have this kind of concept.
They are out there with their progressions. But I think in the long term that will see them well. But I know what you mean. It's like they should be bigger from music nerds. Why isn't this the biggest band in the world?
Everyone in that band are just amazing. Bård Kolstad on drums.
He is
Einar, the vocalist, and his songwriting, but also Robin, guitar player. Toro was my guitar student from when I was very young. And
amazing.
Simon, and Øystein, who used to play in Leprous, he now plays in my solo band. He used to be my student when I was very small.
Wow, you're just out there.
You got to think ahead, cheap labor down the line. I'm just kidding.
Your son is featured on this album.
People are making a big deal about that.
I just want to know.
Yeah, no, but
it's in your press release. You can't blame me.
No. They put it in the press release because we credit him. Yeah. On the album, because he does play percussion parts, and it's as simple as. I mean, both our kids are doing music and doing music education. And of course, both their parents are musicians. And my mother-in-law is a musician, running the local musical that they've been part of since they were very, very small. And Uncle Einar is a musician. And so they've grown up with, touring and making albums is what people do. Yeah. And and that's what they want to do.
How old are they?
16 and 18.
Oh, yeah.
And
They're ready.
yeah,
Get on working. Get on working.
they're very ready. But also our daughter Ariadne, she's been doing voices, like backing vocals on some of the eerie stuff on my earlier solo albums, and it's just practical. We bring people in to do stuff, and he's been doing drum stuff on my previous albums as well when he was much younger. For this album, I had both my Tobias drummers. I had Tobias Solbakk and Tobias Ørnes.
Yeah.
Kind of dividing the album in between them. I'm very fortunate because they don't have weaknesses. They just have different strengths.
Amazing.
And literally I had, but they were in the studio together.
I was going to say, was it the same kit?
Yeah, they mixed and matched, but they were in this playing off each other, playing, talking drum stuff.
Yeah.
So I was in a big studio in Notodden where I live, and had two of Norway's best drummers. My son is a drummer. Of course, he wanted to be there, get some free lessons and everything. And for the percussion parts, we just did this. It's quite a big room, really good sounding room, like a stereo pair in the middle, and did like percussion stations in a triangle. And it just, instead of overdubbing, it's just like they were playing off each other, like
amazing,
a trio,
yeah.
Which is really cool.
Natural sounding.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of aspirations to have your son back your band at some point? You don't have to.
No,
this isn't,
if
contractually binding.
No. But obviously, if he gets,
if he's good enough.
Yeah, if he's good, and he's really putting in the work, But
Good for him.
But he really wants to learn, the business. We encourage them to be proficient on all aspects of things, technically savvy, being able to record yourself, knowing that language of, so if you work with other producers and stuff, that you can communicate on the same things.
Yeah.
He will probably be teching for me, this summer and this year.
Drum tech or guitar tech?
And just like average
Everything,
assistant teching,
tech.
patching stuff and setting up computers.
That's got to
and
be
all.
cool to be able to bring your son on tour with you.
But it's I love, they're that age now that they can join in and get to experience some of the stuff that I get to experience. That's kind of the downside of just, I get the opportunity to travel the world. Me and my wife, we were touring Europe and the US together in the late 90s. Just 1 year ago, I got to bring both the kids to Japan for the first time.
Oh, amazing.
And I think that is experience for me to be able to, I love Japan.
My favorite place on earth.
It's amazing. And I've been speaking very highly of my trips to Japan and the people that we work with there.
Yeah.
Amazing people from Smash and Trooper. They thought that I was exaggerating. But when they got there, it's like,
It's the best place on earth.
It's the best. And they still say, like, we miss Japan every day.
I posted on Instagram that I miss Japan today.
Yeah, okay.
I'm the same, and it's the hard sell to everyone. Anytime anyone's like, hey, we're thinking about going somewhere on holiday, where would you recommend? Because you traveled so much. Every time I'm like, Japan. You just need to go to Japan. There's nothing like it.
When we started touring, getting to Germany was something different. But you know how the world is now. Like everywhere you go in the Western world, it's H&M and Burger King, and it's the same thing. So, but coming to Japan is like coming to different.
It's alien.
It's alien.
Yeah.
And just the culture, the politeness, the lack of crime.
Yeah.
I just love it.
The lack of crime is crazy. Like in a
And
bar.
it's not even a very religious country. And I was actually many years ago. I was there on tour with or like a grand tour of the Roland company.
Yeah.
We visited all the factories and get a grand tour. Me and Bård Kolstad, from
really?
Lepers. Yeah, we went together, and the representative that was with us, we were fascinated that even in Shibuya, Saturday night, if you lose your wallet, they will pick it up and run after you and give it back to you.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And I was like, how is that?
Yeah.
Why is it so? It's not a deeply religious country. It's just very culturally deep, you
Yeah.
know. And he says, well, we have this saying that the sun sees you. So literally, what he
That's
meant
cool.
like, even if you're not caught, and if no one else sees it, but if you do something wrong, you know it in your
It's
heart.
wrong, yeah.
It's wrong.
That's,
And you saw that with that horrible wave, the
the
tsunami thing. They would just stand in line, helping each other out.
Yeah.
It
can't
comes at
believe
a cost. There's a dark side to that strict mentality.
There is. I think it's the highest suicide rates of that side of the world. Like the overworked as well.
So, but fascinating. We have some amazing friends in Japan, and I'm sure we know some of the same people.
I'm sure we do. Yeah, I'm honestly now I'm missing Japan, so we're going to move on. 2 truths and a lie. Did you prepare this for me?
I've tried,
I don't really know how it works anyway, so
but I thought there's so much since I started out so early. There's so much about me online
yeah.
already.
Yeah, but I might not know.
No, but I thought maybe I'll focus on my childhood.
Okay, yeah.
Because it needs to be, it said it had to be, Lisa told me it had to be something personal.
Yeah, it can't just be this is a glass of tea.
No.
Because it's obviously a lie.
So 3 things.
Yes.
I grew up on a farm, and one of my summer jobs was tending and milking cows.
Okay.
My gateway into playing guitar was borrowing this old ukulele. That was my starting point. Before I got into music, being from Telemark, I did ski jumping. I went to ski jumping school.
Now, it's interesting that if one of these is a lie, but they were all told as if they were true. So
That's what I do.
okay, yeah. Honestly, they were delivered with sincerity, which either means all 3 are actually true, which is a trick that people like to play on me.
No, I followed the rules.
There is a lie in there. Okay. How do you? I'm going to ask you questions to decipher.
Okay.
How does one milk a cow? What's the prep?
You wash off, the bits and
The
you put on,
teats.
yeah, and you put on a milking machine.
Oh, so it wasn't you
Not
weren't raw dogging.
No, not old school. Feeding and
Pipes on.
yeah,
How long does it take?
depends. It's very variable. How much milk they have, depending on
Give me a ballpark.
3 to 5 minutes. I'd say
Okay.
per cow.
You're so deadpan that I'm like trying to decipher. Let's go with the ski jumping next. You ever had any injuries?
I did fall and did have, but no serious injuries.
No.
And actually, I even went to jump on plastic in Falun in Sweden as a summer activity.
This one seems true. How many strings does a ukulele have?
4.
Okay,
So it's like an easy get for someone with small fingers.
Where did you acquire the ukulele?
From my grandmother.
From your grandmother. I think that's true. Is that the lie?
Yeah, I would never play a ukulele. It's not a real instrument.
This is why this game is so good.
You can't play real music on a ukulele.
Do you know why I thought it was
It's
true?
for people with straw hats on the beach.
You came in hot with 4 strings like immediately. And I was, because I know a ukulele's got 4 strings, and I was like, if you elaborate on anything about the strings, then I know that this one is a lie. But then you just came in real hot with 4 strings, and I was like, oh no, he seems real. So you used to milk cows. I thought that one was going to be fake.
No, I was raised on a farm. That's why I probably why I started playing music in the first place. And this is something that I've pondered since I how did you go from emperor to go solo? And really, I said it was my grandmother's piano that I started fiddling around, and they gave me lessons. Horrible piano student. I never learned to read score properly. Then I got my first electric guitar when I was 10. But then I already, because of my piano playing, they bought me this electric keyboard, with the dual keyboards and the pedals and the built-in rhythms. And for some reason, and I could jam along. I played the guitar and I would accompany myself, with putting on chords and playing the bass parts with my feet.
Yeah.
For some strange reason, I got hold of this 4-track Fostex recorder. So already at 11, I think I was already, overdubbing.
In Emperor.
No, but alone. This is
Yeah.
I remember this as my first love of making music.
Yeah.
And putting, the parts together.
The layers.
Yeah, the layers and just like ping-ponging and overdubbing stuff on that 4-track machine. So I was thinking, my first love of making music was solo, so to speak.
Yeah.
There were no other kids around where I live. So I was really literally spending my hours after school playing and jamming with myself and doing these demos and writing songs, which eventually led me to play in bands.
And then
I
full
just
circle.
I came back to my natural habitat, if you will.
You just need to get a cow now and milk the cow, and then you're full circle.
I'm not responsible enough.
No?
We have 2 dogs and probably 3 dogs soon again. We've been a three-dog household for many years, but my dear Arya left
I'm
us
sorry.
recently. I don't want to have more animals than that.
No more, no cows. You've got a dinner to go to. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure
It's
talking
been
to you.
absolutely, you're a legend. I was saying to Simon earlier on, I was like, it's crazy that Ihsahn is coming around my house. So it's really cool to have you
I'm
here.
glad you see it that way.
I'm looking forward to the show tomorrow.
As do I.
Check out Ihsahn's new album, Ihsahn. Both versions, the orchestral and the fully composed, both versions together. Have you got any tours coming up with Ihsahn?
I'm playing a lot of back-to-back stuff all over through the summer and into the autumn with Ihsahn stuff and Emperor stuff.
And Emperor, so you're busy.
I'm busy. And also, there's some. You've played Hellfest.
Oh, I
You
love
have to go-
Hellfest.
Yeah, amazing festival, but you have to go to Nantes. And literally, I'm playing a different festival in is it Italy or Spain the day before with Ihsahn.
Yeah.
And it's like the routing to get to Nantes from the, how this is.
Yeah, I
So
know.
there's some challenges, and I think I'm playing Grass Pop with both bands on the same day. Yeah,
Oh, good for you.
yeah, like to keep busy.
That sucks, though. I would hate that. Here's a funny story while we're on the subject. My first time going to Hellfest was because of you.
Oh,
2006 Emperor Reform. I never saw you. I got into Emperor, never got to see you, and then you broke up, and then you reformed, and initially it was sold as Hellfest only. So me at 18, I think I was, got a ticket, did the whole journey, went there. It rained like crazy when you were playing. Do you remember it?
Yeah, I remember it. Because what I remember, we shared the backstage with Megadeth and Dream Theater.
Yep.
And they were playing ahead of us. It was like Megadeth, Dream Theater, then Emperor.
Yep.
And I remember standing, warming up and seeing John Petrucci, doing Pull Me Under. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm going out there and doing I'm the Black Wizard. It's like,
Hey, I was there for you. I was there
thank
for you.
you.
And I remember it was the muddiest year. I got bronchitis from watching you.
sorry.
But it was amazing. But I learned, that was my first lesson, that when a band says they're only doing one show, it means they are probably, like when it's a Reform festival only,
Yeah.
listen, they're always doing another one. They're just telling you that festival one, because I think you announced the London show like about 6 weeks afterwards. I was like, fuck, I could have just went to London.
Yeah.
But it was a lovely time.
Yeah, Hellfest, and that was even early Hellfest. And
That was
it's only
before
gotten
it
better.
was, like now it's a theme park. That was
So
super
it's
early.
brilliant. I have some fun memories from Hellfest. Like, we shared the backstage. Of course, we didn't meet anyone, but like, how it is with the Hellfest. But I've played there with my solo band. And then you're kind of with everybody else.
Yeah.
But we played there with in 2014 in Ice the Eclipse anniversary thing, and we shared like the special backstage with the Black Sabbath and Soundgarden.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like
amazing.
you headline spot kind of Hellfest, and then you go grab a beer and then you watch Black Sabbath.
From that nice balcony where you can just watch everything. It's the best festival. It's my favorite.
So it's not a bad day at the office.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you, mate.
Thank you so
Hopefully
much
see you
for-
again.